Usually when a robber uses a weapon to threaten you, it's better to just do what they say. But sometimes they run up against somebody who just can't be intimidated or stopped.
All right, well, you might call this next story a case of instant karma. An arson suspect in Canada accidentally lit himself on fire. Video shows two people lighting the door to a building on fire. Then they throw an object, which makes the flames bigger.
An armed thief tries to rob a group of kids outside a school in Brazil. A mother who happened to be there then draws her gun to stop him and shoots. He falls to the ground, dropping his weapon. Meanwhile, everyone else has run away. While pointing her gun at the suspect, she orders him to roll to his stomach, then puts her foot on his back to stop him from getting away.
Keep watching to see more shocking instant karma. Dad protects baby from gunman. In 2022, at a Detroit gas station, a man chased a father holding his 7-month-old son and threatened them with a weapon. The father reacted instinctively. Police searched for the guy and asked the public for help to track him down. They arrested a person of interest who had argued with the father. Even crazier, this all happened on Father's Day. Robber thwarted by spring breakers. At another gas station, this time in Florida, two robbers thought they'd approach a group of cousins as they were filling up their car. Little did they realize how fast the tables would get turned. The attackers dropped their weapon and were forced by the cousins to run away after their own weapon got turned on themselves. Nobody was hurt, but it was a terrifying situation. While the best thing is usually to comply, sometimes you have to step it up according to the threat level. All too often, robbers go for what they think are soft targets. Self-defense with extinguisher. A scary situation in Toledo, Ohio in 2017 got flipped around when the entire store staff fought back. They quickly pull him away from the female clerk and start to fight back, but one lady goes above and beyond with the fire extinguisher while the others call the cops. It seemed like she's getting a lot of rage out here, and honestly, it's hard not to cheer her on. By the end of his self-inflicted ordeal, he was pathetically scrambling over the desk towards the exit, desperate to escape them. Luckily, this attacker wasn't armed, and he was heavily outnumbered. But even then, clerks can even the odds if they have the right equipment, like this liquor store owner in California. Badass grandpa defends his store. The robber, in a video from July 2022, must have thought he had the upper hand when he targeted a small-town California liquor store. The white-haired old man all alone at the counter couldn't possibly be any threat, could he? "80-year-old Craig Cope was able to defend his property with some killer reflexes. The adrenaline sent him to the hospital shortly afterwards, but he recovered and continued to work there until he finally passed away from a stroke in December 2022. Tamara Gibbons called her boss a hero.
I'm glad that they caught the guys, and I'm glad Craig, I mean, he's a local hero, you know, especially, you know, he's 80 years old.
In the next video, there was just one woman fighting back in a truly dangerous situation. Woman stops gunman in Brazil. In this case from May 2018, the robber completely picked the wrong victim. And you have to be a real lowlife to point your weapon at a school group.
An armed thief tries to rob a group of kids outside a school in Brazil. A mother who happened to be there then draws her gun to stop him and shoots. He falls to the ground, dropping his weapon. Meanwhile, everyone else has run away. While pointing her gun at the suspect, she orders him to roll to his stomach, then puts her foot on his back to stop him from getting away.
Outside a private school in Sao Paulo, Brazil, 21-year-old creep Elevilton Neves Moreira tried to hold the parents and their kids. Luckily, parent Katia da Silva Sastre was ready to leap into action. Elevilton had really picked the wrong target, as she was an off-duty cop. She stopped him in his tracks and used her police training to make sure he stayed down. He tried to fire twice more, but luckily, the gun jammed before anyone was hurt. Then he was taken to the hospital, but he ultimately did not survive his injuries. She said, "I had to act quickly to end his aggression and prevent him from harming anyone." She was commended by the governor.
This brave hero was an off-duty officer. The governor later commended her.
Later, she controversially used the footage in her election campaign, and by the end of 2018, Katia da Silva had been elected to Congress. Stand your ground, lady. This terrifying video shows a man trying to kick in the front door of a private property. After yelling and threatening the mother of his kids, he manages to get inside, and from there, he picks up a blade. He was terrorizing his ex-wife, but the ultimate tragedy is he had been on his way to an anger management class. It was all over when he rushed her, and she fired at him, ending his life with a headshot. It's even more incredible that because of the stand your ground law in Texas, no charges were ever brought against her. Home invasion drama. It's a scary world out there, and you never know who's outside. But in this footage from Georgia in 2024, they underestimated who was inside too. 3 armed creeps tried to invade a home in Georgia, but this is an absolute case of fooling around and finding out. These attackers didn't realize that the homeowner was a U.S. Navy veteran, Whitfield Smith. He'd served in Afghanistan, and when he spotted them creeping around at 2 a.m., he knew exactly how to fight back with his own firepower. First firing a warning shot, he quickly realized how serious they were.
They started opening up.
In slow motion, you can see Smith kick off his flip-flops as he backpedals.
I'm like, you can't do anything.
After that initial barrage, Whitfield paused only to kick off his flip-flops and retrieve some clothes and a bigger weapon. Then he took control of the situation. All the robbers were able to take with them was a laptop from Whitfield's car.
I could hear them trying to get away. They're jumping over fences.
Daylight revealed the damage to Smith's car and his pickup.
But after everything he'd been through in the military, he wasn't about to put up with this in his own house. Some robbers think nobody will fight back, but it's nice that sometimes they're proven very wrong. In Mexico, this would-be robber ran into an old-fashioned cowboy. Mexican cowboy stops armed robbery. When a creep tries to rob a butcher shop in Minimart, he runs into a deceptively quiet cowboy in a crazy video from San Bernabé, Mexico. The quiet cowboy picks his moment, then he removes his glasses and takes the robber down. After a violent chase, where the robber loses some clothes, he's held down with help from the shop's butcher. U.S. Marine stops robber in a perfect case of criminals picking the wrong victims at the wrong time. This attack in Yuma was quickly ended by a Marine who happened to be standing right by the door as 2 robbers entered a store. He disarms them in seconds and even tries to fire the weapon, which jammed. He then stops one of them from leaving. The Marine, James Kilser, was given a Citizen's Valor Award for his actions.
It's kind of overwhelming a little bit because it just kind of feels like, you know, being congratulated for doing what everyone, I feel like to think that everyone would have done.
You can have excellent reflexes, but they still need to be honed, and professionals almost have it as muscle memory. Another inspirational video shows another case where that kind of military training gives an impressive edge. Quick draw winner. The attacker at this Missouri liquor store underestimated the military background of the clerk. First, he took offense to being told to quit smoking. Then he demanded that the clerk gives up all his money. The clerk, John Lewis Alexander, said he just took another puff and looked me dead in the eyes like he was Billy Badass. However, the attacker barely got a chance to raise his weapon before he was sent packing. John skillfully bats the weapon away and presses his own against the robber's neck. John then said to him, "You need to get the FCK out of here before I blow your King head off." John didn't ever fire because he kept the other man's weapon pointed away. But if the attacker hadn't backed down, the situation would have escalated into something much messier. Like in the next video, where someone makes a terrible life choice, which leads to a real tragedy for everyone involved. Customer shoots and kills armed robber in Houston taco shop. A robber tried to hold up a taco shop in Houston, Texas, but he also didn't reckon with an armed member of the public who fought back and put him down.
A man who police believe was in his 20s, dressed in all black, pointing a gun and demanding money from the more than half-dozen patrons inside the Ranchito Taqueria number 4. Then, a heroic attempt to stop him. A customer steps in, pulling out a gun of his own and opening fire, shooting the suspect multiple times. The alleged robber stumbling to the door and collapsing. Police say he died at the scene. The shooter then retrieves the stolen cash and returns it.
The vigilante returned the money to the customers, but they were then distraught to realize that the robber had used a fake gun. Technically, that meant that nobody had been in real danger during the robbery, but how were they supposed to know that? That person had their heart in the right place and no charges were brought against them. But then there are always seriously misguided vigilantes who would have been better off not getting involved at all. Vigilante tragedy. At a busy intersection in Georgia on the 7th of May, 2019, a car hit a truck and then ran a red light. Hannah Payne called it in, but she also thought she was going to be a hero when she chased the driver in her own car.
There was just an accident. I'm sure they've already called.
She pursued the guy, and despite the police dispatch ordering her stop, she followed the car and hunted him down. When the man crashed the car and raised his weapon, she punched him through his car window and then used her own weapon to end his life. But it was tragic overkill. The man, Kenneth Herring, wasn't drunk, but he was suffering from a diabetic episode. Hannah's whole attempt at justice was horribly misguided. Hannah ended up with a heavy sentence of life imprisonment and caused a much-loved family man to lose his life.
The court will impose a sentence of life with the possibility of parole.
Hannah Payne's eyes filled with tears as Clayton County Judge Jules Scott gave the convicted killer life for the malice murder charge.
Other times, people end up hurt because they put themselves in harm's way, although your mileage may vary in the next video. YouTube prankster Tanner Cook shot. There are other attacks that weren't technically meant to be dangerous. Tanner Cook was notorious for his pranks of bothering people going about their day. Some might even call this a bullying, but sometimes you fool around and find out, and calling it just a prank is not going to save you. But hasn't learned his lesson. Sometimes even an extreme reaction isn't enough to change someone's mind.
You know, the jury's the jury, and we totally respect how our law plays out, and this was the outcome today, and we respect that.
Yeah. Let's consider the people who might have a question about your content itself.
I don't know. Guess I'll just have to keep watching.
So you'll continue to make videos?
Yeah, probably.
Tanner should probably hope he doesn't bother anyone else with a more powerful weapon. Taxi driver terrifies robbers, or terrify them so they leave you alone. This taxi driver managed to use his insane driving to terrifying some would-be hijackers. His heart rate and adrenaline is clearly going off the charts, but the driving skills do the job. By the time he's through, those crooks are begging him to stop the cab. By the time they stop, both ended up running in opposite directions. This cab driver also had a very bad day, but make sure you also keep an eye on the vehicle behind him. The award for least observant robber goes to this guy. cab robbery stopped by cop.
This is a robbery, man. Right, hey, give me all your money, man. Man, I don't. Give me everything you got. Give me it now. All right. I need it now. All right. We can make this the easy way, or we can make this the hard way, man. Everything I got, man. Keep your hand where I can see him. I just started. What else you got? I just started. Let me see your wallet. Let me see your.
Just see who's already parked behind this poor taxi driver. The driver must have been so relieved to see the flashing lights, and luckily, nobody was hurt.
It's gonna hurt you. Just give me everything you got.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything in my wallet. I don't
carry
it.
Your wallet and your phone. I need your wallet.
No, please don't give me my phone. I need that for my. There's a cop behind us. There's a cop behind us. Get out. Get out. Lifesaver! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Arsonist reaps instant karma, or even better, someone trying to cause harm ends up on the receiving end of their own attack.
All right, well, you might call this next story a case of instant karma.
It's a scary world, and most of the cases are the best case scenarios. Not everyone can turn the tables, so let's hope you never have to find out if you have the reflexes and bravery to survive these crazy attacks IRL. Could you survive one of these scenarios? Leave a comment below telling us how, and maybe subscribe for more if you enjoyed this video.